Hello everyone and welcome to the Media Beat episode 101. We are now well into our second century of podcasting and thank you for staying with us. Our audience is steadily growing all over the world and it's great to have you every time. It's the Media Beat with Claire and Maureen, or Maureen and Claire, and as usual we'll be doing a deep dive, having some news and having some Podmojis today. There's some interesting stuff that we found as well. Meta has been fined. Sony is making a major change to the PlayStation. We'll talk about Jukebox Musicals. We'll talk about AI slop, of course, you can't avoid it. And something called, which I sort of understand, the Gen Alpha Melody. Stay tuned, although, of course, we don't tune things anymore. But stay listening. But the first bit of the show, as usual, is a deep dive. Very interesting one. So this is another one that we've touched on briefly over the years. And it's about searchability, how people find what they're looking for. And crucially, as Claire says, how platforms try to guess what you want to see before you know that you want to see it. And that is a perennial problem with the digital streaming world. And Claire and Maureen are going to take you through a little bit of it. Claire's going to start. So I guess the history was a lot more simple than it is these days. But just take us through how this has become one of the biggest challenges for creators and broadcasters.
I will, but before that, I have to say, for those of you listening rather than watching us, this is a summer special episode. Both Maureen and I are in different locations than usual, partly to escape the heat. And Oliver has the most amazing shirt on. And you're going to have to go on our YouTube channel just to see the shirts, I think, because Maureen and I are sort of speechless. Not sure we're going to be able to complete the deep dive, but it's beautiful and it suits him very well. Anyway, let's move on. This deep dive, I'm going to be honest, is brought to you by my ongoing feud with an LLM, which I'm assuming is based in Utah for some reason, which I turned to for the deceptively simple question of whether Sports Night, one of the series I really, really love, is on Netflix. Sports Night is not on Netflix. Apparently, the rights still haven't been sorted all these years on. And helpfully, when I pushed Netflix's own AI search on the subject, it decided what I actually wanted to see was a documentary series about the World Series. I did not. Close, but no cigar, and a fairly good illustration of where we've ended up. Streamers throwing newfangled interfaces at us, from AI search to vertical shorts to contextual recommendation, hoping one of them will finally understand what we're actually asking for. Maureen's going to go through some of these interface experiments in detail shortly, but I thought I would start by giving you a little bit of background about how on earth we've got where we've got to. Streaming services, throw yourself back in history, started out fairly simple. With a fairly simple layout, there were featured programs, there was continue watching, and then there was search. Essentially, it was a digital TV guide blended with a blockbuster video shop experience minus the popcorn aisle. As technology, consumer behaviors, market competition evolved, so did the interface. First thing we were given were multiple user profiles, very handy for household, even handier for the algorithm, which suddenly has much cleaner, highly personalized data. In theory, at least. In practice, all it takes is 1 5-minute lapse in vigilance, which happened to me earlier this summer. I recently let my 7-year-old nephew watch Hot Wheels on my Netflix profile for 20 minutes. My homepage was instantly obliterated. Years of carefully cultivated psychological profiling vanished overnight. Suddenly, my top row was offering me Hot Wheels Let's Race, neon monster trucks, and talking animated tractors because the algorithm doesn't know I have a nephew. It just assumes I'm having a massive personal breakdown and really, really need to see cars jump through loops of fire. And this is really this fragile relationship between the user and the machine is where we are and what is happening right now. We are exhausted by these interfaces. According to data from Nielsen, the average viewer now spends 10 minutes just scrolling through tiles trying to pick something to watch. That's up by more than 40% compared to a few years ago. And here's the stats that really shows how badly these interfaces can fail. 20% of viewers, 1 in 5 browsing sessions end with the person giving up and doing something else entirely instead of watching. In the UK, a recent survey from EETV found that the average Brit spends 28 hours a year searching for something to watch. And nearly half of us, 45%, admit we regularly give up and rewatch an old comfort show we've seen 10 times already, purely to avoid decision fatigue. Well, that's a bit of a disaster for streamers, and they are desperate to fix this. Why? Because as we've discussed before, the cost of churn is genuinely terrifying to their business. In any subscription economy, the rule of thumb is that acquiring a new customer costs around 5 times more than keeping an existing one. So if a platform loses 4 or 5% of its user base each month to churn, it has to spend hundreds of millions of pounds on marketing off platform just to stay in the same spot. So the interface is literally the last line of defense against you clicking cancel. To stop you from canceling, platforms run relentless A/B testing on us. So you know what A/B testing is? This two very similar profiles will get a slightly different experience, and then they will measure which one works better. Millions of us are at any moment part of an invisible experiments testing layouts, trailer length, and thumbnail designs. Now, an old piece of research by Netflix has shown that users spend an average of 1.8 seconds considering each title as they scroll. 1.8 seconds. That's less time than it took me to actually say this sentence. And 80% of that focus is on the image rather than the text. So if a new thumbnail generates, a double-digit bump in viewers, that artwork becomes the new global default, and none of us ever find out it happened. They will also adapt the experience depending on what device you're using. On smart TV, which is still, it is now about 60% of all streaming watch time. The interface is built for lean back, high impact visual. On mobile, where attention spans are shorter, it's much more like social media, as Maureen will discuss, leaning heavily into vertical video feeds and quick share tools. The hybrid testing is also how I don't know if you've actually looked at the categories on your Netflix feeds recently, but we are getting into seriously, increasingly unhinged, ultra-specific row titles. So there's one that's called Short-Ass Movies. This is a real one. Netflix created that after a Saturday Night Live skit went viral. There's one called Swipe Left, which is dedicated exclusively to disastrous romance stories. And then there's one that I noticed recently when I logged in, which is called Erase My Memory So I Can Watch Again, which is another way of saying you've seen this already. But it also speaks to me on a spiritual level. And it does work. Netflix states that over 80% of all viewing across the platform is driven directly by these algorithmic recommendations, which is why I've started watching Hot Wheels, obviously. Nobody's searching for anything anymore. We're just being served content. So the whole ecosystem is now entirely designed around lowest possible friction. They don't want you to feel any pain at any time in the process of trying to find something to watch. So they've redesigned interfaces, especially on mobile, to make it look like Instagram, because they know that people like Instagram and they spend time on Instagram. So we're going into a vertical short form world, or TikTok, full screen auto playing, vertical feeds, and then this famous AI powered search that is now available on Netflix on mobile platforms, which is really meant to, it's been built to interpret very vague natural language queries like, show me something upbeat with a 90s aesthetic. For mood-based browsing, it's really good. But if you're looking for a specific show, like, say, Sports Nights, then, that doesn't work at all. And so they've lost something in the purity of the search, obviously, in this experiment. Natural language search is much better at vibes than facts, as we all know. So that's my very brief background on how we've ended up where we are and why I'm really frustrated that I still can't watch Sports Night. But I'm going to hand over to Maureen now to go through some of the new technologies that is being developed.
Well, but those stats were amazing. But yeah, and quite sorry to say quite comical. But anyway, I mean, you brought us here very quickly, which is really interesting, under a different category, which is Claire's very comical way of being upset, but grinning at the same time. So anyway, so everything I'm going to describe has happened. Not over decades, but over 14 or 15, actually, probably now, weeks. and I'm going to talk specifically about some of the major players that are upsetting Claire. But I'm going to talk
I'm
specifically
just
about
too
how.
old for this shit.
No, you're not. No, you're not. No, and you'll see why in a minute. In about 5 minutes, you'll see why. So I'm going to just talk about some of the major players. They're really trying their best, Claire. They really are. Just hold on. Just hold on. So okay. So in April, Netflix launched. As we know, its redesigned mobile app in 9 countries. We included in that UK or France. I think France was included. Built around a vertical, as Claire's been alluding to, a vertical feed called Clips, and a lot of people are accessing that specifically on their mobile phones. In July, I think it was end of July, HBO Max, they launched 2 things on the same day. A vertical clip feed and also a conversational search tool called Ask, very straightforward, Ask HBO Max. And then on the 5th of original, they are the team that labels things.
I mean, we all know HBO Max is very good at naming stuff, so yeah.
We know that, don't they? It's either HBO or it's Max or it's Max or it's HBO or it's Max again or it's HBO Redux. I mean, they've got to get Redux in there one day. So and then on the 5th of August, when we were closely following the Disney results, they put natural language search into a beta version of Disney Plus and ESPN. So in late July, we also had Reuters reporting that Jeff Bezos had personally directed a Prime Video redesign internally called Lighthouse. Of course, it's called Lighthouse, a Lighthouse project. I think Oliver will know about these because every single consultancy project will have, where's your moat or where's your lighthouse project? And that was built around AI recommendations. So, Claire, Oliver, that's 4 companies in 1 quarter, and probably 2 features which were the same. But actually, they do. She could. This is my sigh of relief, but also for Claire, they do different jobs. So the vertical feed guesses before you ask. Conversational search waits for you to ask, but lets you do it in normal language instead of typing a title. So one removes the question and the others removes the keyboard. And the major streamers are building both, much to the upset of Claire. So anyway, so Warner has been very open about how its own feed works. They have an in-house model that reads scene level metadata to identify moments likely to hold attention. So human editors are actually in the loop here. They choose the final clips and they reframe them vertically. So there's definitely a lot of work that's going behind the scenes. So this is editorial work as much as it is engineering. So a catalogue that used to be indexed, as we know, Claire, by title, now has to be indexed by moment. And the libraries built for a search box are being built around mood, scene, and tone. And I think that changes exactly what's being fed to you or surfaced. So a show that worked under thumbnails and rows may not work now when somebody simply types, I want a dysfunctional family drama, please. It's not going to come up with anything. I want to know.
How did you guess my search?
I peered over your shoulder one day.
Oh, yeah.
So the system is reading different signals. We've got completion rates. We've got scene level tagging. So how closely a show maps in the language somebody uses, in a prompt. So the licensing deals across the industry, we know, were negotiated a long time ago around the old Discovery system, and even currently around the old Discovery system. So they assumed people would browse by rows, by titles, and pick one. That assumption no longer holds. And so I haven't seen any evidence, but please send in please the lawyers out there or the commercial directors, please send in your lists. I haven't seen any evidence that the licensing terms are being renegotiated with it in order to deal with how we would like, naturally, either guessing or not guessing to find a particular program. So there's also in all of this, Claire, as you would know, there's an advertising question too. So changing how people find something to watch does not create more impressions, as we know. It changes which titles those impressions run against. So if a mood prompt sends viewers into different parts of the catalogue, than the old sort of recommendation engine, the inventory changes with that and with them. So show level and genre level targeting in connected TV relies on fairly predictable content adjacency. A mood-led prompt may not deliver that. And that's the issue here. And none of these companies have published a comparison to those outputs. But the advertising is still being sold against assumptions built around the old system. So two things from this week, I think, which makes it the change a bit clearer is Disney's feature has been publicized. I mean, it's been out there. Disney's feature is called the Personal Intelligence, so the PI, which connects a subscriber. I don't know if anyone's signed up to this yet. I'm a little bit dubious and I haven't signed up to it yet. But it connects a subscriber's Gmail and Google Calendar to answer the questions in context. So if they believe that, we've had so many meetings or we've had so much fun, they'll be able to predict the mood and the context in which the sort of programs we want to watch.
Terrifying.
I know. So it's an opt-in. It's an opt-in and off by default. So you really do have to, opt in here. So there's a privacy trade-off there, and it will be argued over for sure. But it also changes what discovery is. So it's no longer about what sits inside the catalogue. It can also respond to what is happening in your week, during your week. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing came on, again, 5th of August, which was for the Disney results. And the day before its own AI search announcement, Disney signed a 2-way short-form deal with TikTok, as we know. And I think we're sort of, So opt-in, is again, opt-in creators. So the creators' videos will appear inside Disney's own vertical vertical program, I'm going to call it, which is called Verts. The vertical feed discovery starts. The Verts. It reminds me of green. When I look at you, Claire, I think of vert is a green, but so the vertical feed Verts. Another naming issue. The vertical feed that Disney started rolling out actually in March, but now they've realized it in terms of signing an agreement with TikTok. I've tried to figure out and find out what the deal terms are, what the ownership is, who owns the IP, who's going to do this or not, what they can and cannot do, but I can't get anyone to answer those questions either from Disney or TikTok. But anyway, Disney, as we know, has a century of its own library, but it's still bringing content into its service from a platform competing for the same attention. So, I mean, you basically get a TikToker, maybe bring it into your ecosystem because they're already performing very well outside with their followers. So anyway, so these systems are being sold as easier ways to find something to watch. Claire, little do you know that.
No, but I knew that I wanted to watch. This is my problem.
I know. There is a real problem to solve there. Yeah. There is. But when a system guesses what you want, it's also making an editorial choice for you. So something decides what appears and something decides what does not appear. So when a row said comedy or documentary, or swipe left, swipe right, you can see the organizing logic. You can see that. But when the category becomes a mood generated around you, that logic is going to be harder to see. So accuracy is only part of this. Accountability, of course, is going to be the rest. Who is responsible for what gets surfaced, I should say? Don't know, but they've got to. So the moral of the story is they've somehow got to fix the old legacy systems and match that with not only what advertisers and brands are looking for, but also what people actually want to watch and how they want to watch it and how they want to ask for it, or be kind of like, hinted at or nudged or prompted of what they would like to watch. We have no answers to this, but it was comical to go through it, I think.
It was wonderful to watch Claire get more and more angry at the.
Before we close this topic, I'm going to make an appeal to our listeners. If somebody is working right now at Netflix listening to us, I don't need to be served more Hot Wheels content until my nephew comes back, which will not happen for a few months. I'm okay. Thank you very much. Secondly, could somebody please clear the rights to Sports Night so I can watch it again? It was Aaron Sorkin's very first series. It ran for 2 seasons. It's absolutely brilliant, and it's not available anywhere. So these are my 2 pleas.
Yeah, well, let's use our audience. And that's right. The Venn diagram between senior executive French ladies and monster truck rallies is a very small overlap. That's all I can say. How fascinating.
A small 7-year-old boy.
Yeah, maybe slightly more. It's absolutely messed up your algorithm. What a fascinating subject. And I love the way we can go the very simple history from when it was very simple to now the ridiculous complexity of it in such a small space of time. You both did a fabulous job there. I was absolutely hooked. Thank you. I didn't even know what a mood-led prompt was, and now I do. I will be using that at dinner tonight. But unfortunately, we have to move on. As always, anyone who can help fix Claire's algo, let us know. But for now, we have to move to In the News. Massive business fine news coming in, $1 billion. I've got to say that without saying it in the Dr. Evil voice. Meta are on the receiving end of that. Maureen at Meta head office. You have that story, Maureen.
And I would have put my little pinky up there like that, but it's actually just below $1 billion.
Oh, okay.
Just below. But I'm sure that we could figure out some sort of currencies and currency conversion to make it $1 billion, but
4 billion SAR
below. exactly. So the news here is, gosh, yeah, they're always in the courts. This one is fascinating. I think so. So a judge in New Mexico has ordered Meta to pay another, actually $560 million. That was last week, dollars. And then this judge added another 375 million, which was awarded by a jury. Sorry, not the judge, a jury again in March, which takes the total up to 940. So shy of $1 billion. But the number, we keep focusing on this number and this 1 billion. That's not, I mean, it got the attention, but that's not the best bit. The best bit is the legal bit, as always. So the legal basis is the most important part here. So the judge found that Meta had created a public nuisance, which is wonderful. So 420 million of this particular award or fine will be awarded as part of what's called an abatement fund for treatment services for young people over the next 5 years. So the money is redirected to help the public services, to help with those that have suffered this public nuisance. So this is not a privacy fine. It's not a competition fine. It's a public health remedy with money directed towards the harm the court says was caused. So that legal approach has been used in tobacco many years ago and opioid cases as well. So now it's being applied to social feed. So Meta says, of course, it disagrees. It will appeal. It's also disclosed in its latest second quarter results around 2.4 billion. This is the billion mark here, in charges tied to legal proceedings in this year, in 2026. So this single award, though, is not the main point. It's the precedent it will set. So public nuisance cases do not necessarily require a legislature to pass a new platform law, which is something that's going on in the UK at the moment. So it requires a court to simply find that the design of a product amounts to a nuisance. So the court now has done that, and I think that's absolutely amazing. So all that money is going to go to various people that have and will be able to claim, like in tobacco, smoking, cancer and the like, or opioid abuse. Now this will be a social feed nuisance category that people can come forward and claim some money as compensation. I think it's amazingly extraordinary, actually, I should say, in terms of a legal finding. And well done, you applauded judge. Claire, what did you think?
I mean, it's quite something. The judge specifically made the analogy to factory and pollution. That's what it said. It said in his judgment, it said that this was basically Meta's platforms were a factory, and the features were what the factory produces, and the resulting harm represent the pollution, and therefore it needs to abate it. And as you say, it's a huge precedent, because that it opens the door to any legislature anywhere in the US, based on the way the legal system works there, to make similar claims. So it's a real problem for Meta, and obviously they will appeal. As part of the judgment, in addition, this is my only point because you've explained it so well, but in addition to the fine, the court mandated pretty sweeping operational changes across all of the Meta platforms, which, remember, is Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, amongst a few others. For instance, usage and time for teenage users, usage and time capping, notification silencings during night hours and during academic school hours on weekdays, defaults for privacy and visibility, communication restrictions, reporting, etc. So in addition to the fine, if they have to comply by the ruling, they will have to make some pretty significant changes to their platform. So a fascinating ruling, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it ends. But I agree with you. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. Getting them to pay for the nuisance they've caused. Excellent. And you're right, Claire. That was beautifully explained. Thanks, Maureen. What a great story. Worth the trip to Meta's HQ for you to laugh at them. So when I was a young lad and I started in the computer business, we used to use stuff called half-inch analog magnetic tape to do our backups for the factory in which I worked. And it was a beautiful thing to mount one of those things. And of course, media, as in physical media, has been being phased out over the years, and now another one bites the dust. Claire, you have that story.
That is correct. Sony has announced that PlayStation would phase out physical gaming discs starting in January 2028, so not quite now, and probably coinciding with the release of the new PlayStation, by the way, which may well not have an optical disc drive, so that's probably why they're doing this. There's loads of reasons. Sony obviously talks about consumer behavior as the primary driver, and digital purchases currently account for 80% of software sales on the PlayStation platform. So there is a point there, but also it costs much less money. You're eliminating overheads. You're ending secondhand sales, which, people like Sony, gaming companies do not like secondhand sales, and you control the price much more than when it goes into shops, which may decide to, do their own discounts. And you've got massive technical logistics that you don't need to deal with anymore. So there are lots of good reasons beyond consumer behaviors why Sony would do this. Now, there are some consequences that I think are quite interesting. The first obvious one is the impact on high street retailers. There are a few high street retailers still around. There's quite a big retail market for pre-owned games markets. That's going to go now. Bricks and mortar stores will need to rely increasingly on hardware sales, on accessories, and maybe digital gift cards, but you can get those online. It's going to be a big hit for them. Obviously, market pricing, as I've said, is going to be so much easier for Sony and its rivals if they decide to go ahead with it. But I thought this was also interesting. Industry archivists have expressed concern regarding historical preservations. Obviously, physical copies serve as historical artifacts, but now with an all digital ecosystem, there will, an old title will only remain available if the publishers decide to maintain download servers for these titles, or it could just disappear forever. So, a moment in the history of gaming in particular and media in general, as you say, Oliver, I thought. What did you think, Maureen?
Yeah, the archivist, that's and preservation. That's fascinating, actually. That's really fascinating. So keep 70 million in mind, but that's roughly how many PlayStation game discs were still sold last year out of the 318 million game units in total, and that's downloads were about 85%. So there's still demand for discs. Sony has, I think, decided digital store clearly is better for the reasons that you've set out, Claire. The disc, though, announcement came, I think, with something else: the closure of PlayStation Store on PS3 and Vita. So that changes access to things people have already paid for, which is a bit difficult. So the disc was never really the product. I think the license was, wasn't it? So the disc just made that license feel something you owned. And there's a lot of people who still love that sort of physical copy to say, I've got something, you know.
Which I can sell.
Exactly. And I recall, even though when I was doing some work in the music industry, when we were looking at Spotify subscriptions and take up, the Japanese and the German market in particular, even though they had digital versions of music, they specifically wanted the vinyl, or they wanted the DVD or the CD copy, even though they didn't have an appliance to play it on. They just wanted it as memorabilia as well. So it's fascinating. Yeah. Interesting choice of business decision. Yeah.
I just took a trip down memory lane to see those old tapes, and there was like about 3/4 kilometre of magnetic tapes in those things, which I used to do backups. Happy days, happy physical days. So that was a great story, and we got final story. Oh yes. We talked about this before as well, but Maureen, you say it is worth talking about as a news story of the explosion in social media retail. What's happening out there?
Gosh, today's show is all about billions, isn't it? And money and numbers, as always. Yeah. So here's a number for you, Oliver. So TikTok Shop moved an estimated $50 billion of goods worldwide in the first half of this year, and that's up 92%. 92%. So those 92% extraordinary. Those numbers come from Momentum Works and TabCut, not TikTok itself. So if anyone's out there who's checking our numbers, I'll get the name right. Nino, if you want to check it.
He was very good about it.
Checking my numbers, I still think about him as called Nico, but Nino, if you're checking our numbers, as I say, they are Momentum Works and TabCut. So I would treat the precision carefully there. Right. So anyway, the US accounted for $11 billion and has moved back ahead of Indonesia. So by the way, the people who are buying have changed as well. So last year, video drove about 50% of attributed sales, and the shop tab, the TikTok, drove about 36%. That was last year. This year, it's flipped. The shop tab is now just over 50%, while video is 40%, and live is down to 8%. So amazing. So TikTok Shop was built around discovery commerce. People saw something and they bought it, even though they weren't looking for it. So now more people appear to be entering TikTok Shop intending to buy and then searching. So in the same week, YouTube, of course, also opened its shopping affiliate program for UK creators with 6 named retailers and a threshold of 500 subscribers. So the products may look similar on screen, but the transaction is not. So on TikTok, we've got the purchase happens inside the app. On YouTube, the viewer leaves YouTube and goes to the retailer's website, and then the commission is handled through an affiliate network. So TikTok owns the checkout, YouTube sends the customers elsewhere. That's the difference. But the company handling the payment also sees the purchase data. So right now, I think TikTok has that part of the transaction, YouTube doesn't. But I'm amazed just within that year of how it's flipped in terms of people going specifically to the shop tab to purchase rather than just they're in there browsing and then they see something. Yeah, extraordinary. Claire.
There's nothing very specific that I can add to this because that was beautiful. I'm going to give you some interesting random facts because I know you love them. Apparently, this is quite an old stat, but it's still quite funny. About 50% of mobile ad clicks are accidental. It's called the fat finger economy. People click by accident, and one of the things that a lot of these online shops and social retail media is trying to do is to convert as many of these fat finger accidents as possible, so make it as frictionless as possible once you've accidentally clicked on something. Secondly, this is also a slightly older stat, but I love it too much to not put it up there. If you find yourself making impulsive or erratic purchases, try putting on a pair of high heels, Oliver. A study from Brigham Young University revealed that consumers who are actively trying to maintain their physical balance, like wearing high heels or standing on one foot, make more balanced, rational buying decisions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
yeah, well, I don't need an excuse.
Thing to do and to
I don't need an excuse to put my high heels on.
Next time you're scrolling past a TikTok shop and you really, really want to buy this thing, try standing on one heel, on one foot, or in high heels to see if you're going to do it or not.
Good idea.
That's all I had to add on this topic.
Yeah, you're right. Maureen's on fire today with regards very clinical explanations out of things. And that was absolutely fascinating. So I understand why that's a news story. Things change so fast. Imagine being an executive of one of those companies. It must be like, oh my God, what's happened today that we've got to react to and build on. But anyway, good luck to them. I must go onto TikTok now on one leg and to make sure I don't buy anything. But that, for now, was in the news. Which means that it's time for Podmojis. And I'm looking forward to some very, very interesting props that might be used. But the first one we're going to talk about, and this is, it's going to go to you, Claire, first. Oh, these jukebox musicals, yeah. How far are they going to go? They're going to go, I don't know, all the way down to, I can't think of an obscure band from the 80s. The Smiths. Well, they're not obscure, obviously, but that would be a great one. A great jukebox musical. Actually, that would be a really good idea. But anyway, jukebox musicals. Claire, what's up?
Well, more and more of those. I mean, we're going back to our issue about discovery, which is a problem for everything. It is harder and harder to launch anything new. We've talked about it in every single area that we cover, including movies with the endless sequels and franchises, and the TV with people watching things they've watched 10 times, etc. And it's true as well on Broadway and in the West End. And therefore, if you're going to launch something new, you use existing IP, whether it's a movie like Devil Wears Prada's recently launched a live show, or what they call jukebox musicals. Now, not the original, because it's obviously it happened before, but the most recent huge success in terms of jukebox musical was obviously Mamma Mia, which ended up grossing $4 billion worldwide, was seen by over 65 million people around 50 countries, and obviously spun 2 movies, and is still running in the West End after more than 25 years. We've had Jersey Boys, we've had Moulin Rouge the musical, we have We Will Rock You. And I guess you can guess which music is features in that. 2 new ones that are launching: TLC, Crazy Sexy Cool, the TLC musical. It's actually getting decent reviews. It's just open in New York. But that's...
They weren't around that long, were they? Really, TLC?
They were not around that long because one of them died.
Yeah.
He's in Left Eye Lopez. And they do have some good songs. But anyway, that's the new one. There was a Neil Diamond one, which is called Neil Diamond, A Beautiful Noise, the musical, which opened in the US. And there's a Sinatra one called Sinatra the Musical. Nice. Oh, and there's also the Huey Lewis and the News one.
Two singles.
Exactly. So I don't have much more to say about this. They are going to keep going because this is the way you get people into theatre. My view on this, I mean, I find it quite sad in some ways because it's not the most creative use, but in other ways, I think it's good that people are still going to see live shows. So I'm ambivalent. So Little Fox is not sure.
I mean, that's right. Fox Fox is renowned for sitting on the fence, I suppose.
He's sitting on the fence.
Thank you,
He's
Oliver.
not sure.
I didn't know what that meant. Yes.
Fair enough. Not that you've got
Oh gosh.
furry fox to hand. Yeah. Why does that sound rude?
It's a
I don't
car
know.
fox.
It's very cool. Maureen.
There we go. Car fox is that. Of course. You know, of course. What Oliver? We should have known that.
Indeed.
How on earth do I follow that? So this effectively is a catalogue business, though, isn't it? A rights holder gets another way, to some extent, to monetize existing catalogue without paying to make another new recording. So in this instance, there's a ticket price attached. So potentially a touring life after the original production too. Great. And I think the demand is there. It's already visible, as Claire's sort of articulated very, very well. I think a beautiful noise. It actually opened up in Melbourne as well last week. So
They travel.
They travel as well. See, they travel the other side of the world. So, and I think they're testing this TLC one in Arena Stadium in Washington too. So. I mean, of all the places. So I think the catalogue is no longer just, so it's been licensed as recorded music, so it can become a live show too. So it is just another form of exploitation for where there's an audience. David Byrne was the one but it was it was theatre in COVID, Talking Heads, amazing production, but because COVID hit, it then just went to video, and it's now being shown on Netflix. But I think that would have been travelling material.
But he's touring again, David Byrne, with the show that's shown in theatres, and I went to see it.
Okay,
and it was magnificent. I love Talking Heads, but this absolutely, because of the visuals and everything and the weirdness, trumped what I thought. It was absolutely brilliant. That's my tip, David Byrne, if you get to see him. Great.
I endorse that as well. Big thumb up.
That's your Podmoji. I just got to go back to the TLC one because I should have said it. I wanted to give a shout out. It's being directed by Kwame Kwei Arma, who's a Brit, it's an OB actually, and used to direct the Young Vic. It's a pretty big theatre director and playwright in the UK. So he's obviously decided to go to Washington to
good for him.
Direct this.
Big up
musical.
the Brit. Well played. Okay. The very few.
UK talent.
Huey Lewis in the News is scraping around.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Is it called? You can't get over that one.
The Power of Huey Lewis in the News.
Power
That's what it's called. There's a movie, The Power of Huey Lewis in the News. Just terrible. Anyway, I mean, not disagreeable as a musical act, but anyway, okay, cool. So there we are. That was good. We got a thumbs up and a fox. Nice. Okay, next one. Right. So we talked about AI slop. We talked about AI slop, particularly on LinkedIn, actually, but there is an AI slop filter, apparently, Maureen. What's your view on that? How good is it? And Podmoji's?
Yeah, so LinkedIn they've added a button now that lets users, so people who are reading the material that's on LinkedIn, flag a post as I'm quoting the label. Seems like AI slop. So flagged posts gets less reach, so they basically will stop the distribution of that particular post. Not quite sure the mechanics behind the scenes, but they say that that's what they'll do. So the author gets a private message saying, "Oops, the writing is coming across as inauthentic." According to LinkedIn, good. Inauthentic. So at the same time, LinkedIn is removing the very thing that it was enhancing us all to do, which was enhance your post, its own AI rewriting tool.
Yes,
so I don't know what they're going to do with that bit. Are they taking that away as well, or are they going to actually tell themselves off? So anyway, it's replacing it with a proofreader designed to preserve more of the original voice. So there will still be a button that says, "Would you like to proofread this?" so LinkedIn is now reducing the reach of a style of writing its own tools helped make easier to produce. Anyway, so one detection company, it's called Pangram, Substack's using it, and some others as well, estimates that more than 40% of long form posts on LinkedIn are fully machine written.
Eek.
extraordinary. Yeah, but this is the number one model estimating the output of other models. So take that for,
and that's their job.
That's as you carefully in terms of precision.
Yeah.
So and Pangram clearly sells AI detection. So I would again treat that number with caution. So this is the great news. So
and the
LinkedIn's
Podmoji
in now, and the Podmoji is what a hot ticket.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, wow, that's a nice one.
Taken out like Marie Antoinette herself. Yeah, that was beautiful. And lots of AI detected, says AI detection company. That's the headline.
Exactly. This is AI Slops, this platform with more AI slop than any other platform. This is my Podmoji.
Oh, here we go. Oh, it's back. It's back. Yeah. Really?
Really? That's
really?
my Podmoji. Exactly.
Okay, good.
I don't buy this one. I mean, yes, of course I buy it. I think they're right to do it because it's become so much. I don't buy the 40%. I think it's much more. Actually, I think that underestimates how much AI there is on LinkedIn, and I think LinkedIn is walking up to the fact that they was destroying their platform. So we'll have to see. But yes, I'm going with the.
No, nice one. Sure. And if you're interested in non-AI slop, I would look at our section on LinkedIn, the Media Beat, and obviously on the writing that Maureen does with her human intelligence, high level thereof, on Substack, featuring our own Maureen Kerr, who writes some fascinating stuff.
And Forbes.
And of course, we always forget Forbes, and you always remind us, because that's an even more premier brand, isn't it? And the New York Times, and the Economist. No, I don't know, not yet. Anyway, so that's good. Thank you, great Podmojis, and a surprise one from Maureen there, who whipped out a fan without any warning. And finally, in this section, Claire. We talked about Gen Alpha Melody before. I had a look and tried to sort of understand it, but I think it's probably down to you really to understand it, to explain it better.
So the term, this is a new term, Gen Alpha Melody, apparently refers to a specific four-note melodic motif, which I'm not going to try to sing. You're going to have to go Google it and listen to it. But apparently it's taken over pop music. So it's a Danish musicologist called Carl E. Martin. He coined that phrase, Gen Alpha Melody, to describe this sort of, I guess you'd call it, musical trope, which appears in an incredible number of songs around the world that specifically appeal to Gen Alpha. Apparently there was an equivalent for the millennials that was called the millennial whoop. So you can look it up as well. But here's a few examples. APT from Rosie and Bruno Mars, Forever by Lewis Capaldi, One of Your Girls by Troye Sivan, Sophia by Clairo, Reckless by Madison Beer. These are all examples of songs that I've never heard of, but that use the Gen Alpha melody. They're obviously quite famous. And it seems to be used by songwriters increasingly because they know that it appeals to Gen Alpha. I mean, I'm going to say this is not new, right? Twist and Shouts and La Bamba have the same riff. We've seen this across every single period of music. It's interesting that it's been recognized and defined, and now I'll be looking out for it in all the new songs that I listen to in my Spotify age playlist of 75 plus. But yes, I'm good for them. Good for Gen Alpha. They have a melody. Yay!
So a yay. Yep, good. I'll take a yay.
That's mine.
Right, that's fantastic. Maureen, over to you.
It's very difficult today to follow Claire in this, in terms of follow after, as opposed to follow in terms of understand. So the copyright line is the part worth sort of watching. It is so, but the Millennium Whoop was a vocal technique, and techniques are not protectable. So Carl Martin's argument about this melody is that it is a specific melodic phrase, and that puts it into a different category. That's a difference. So he traces the earliest uses he can find to Anastasia in 2004 and has suggested more than $100 million in theatrical royalties he's claiming. So this is his own calculation. It's not a legal claim, it's his own calculations. And now if you apply that to the generative music these systems are being trained on in the last 5 years of pop. I mean, if a phrase is already common in that training material, the systems may keep reproducing it instead of just letting it disappear. It's going to go on forever and ever and ever. But I think it's the copyright line that's worth watching.
What's she going to produce now? It could be almost anything. Although you're flapping around a little bit, like you haven't got anything else.
And my Podmoji is the eclipse.
The glasses.
The eclipse.
With absolutely no connection whatsoever.
Somewhere.
Yeah,
the eclipse. He could eclipse all humanity with his lawsuits.
Yes, not at all convoluted.
Eclipse. No.
Absolutely.
I was struggling with that one.
And the fox comes back. Claire wants a few more points for the fox. She's not getting any. She's getting 5,000 points for the fox, so Maureen also got 5,000. Yeah, it works out 5,002 each to draw. And by the way, if you want to play the Gen Alpha melody, it's the 4th, the 7th, the 3rd, and the 6th note in any major scale. So if it's in C, you'll play an F, a B, an E, and an A. And as one of England's worst guitarists, I'm going to go off and do that right now and see if I can.
I thought you were going to do it on,
the podcast.
No, I can't.
Well, please send us your recordings and original songs.
So FBEA is the Gen Alpha melody in the major key of C. So that's good, and that's a fitting end, is it? I don't know. You could say that to anything, couldn't you?
Perfect.
A fitting end. It doesn't matter what you've done. I could have played hopscotch and gone, well, that's a fitting end to the 101st Media Beat with Maureen and Claire podcast. It only remains for me to say goodbye and thank you to Claire.
Thank you very much, Oliver. Thank you, Maureen, and goodbye.
And thank you and congratulations and brilliant explaining, particularly this week, Maureen, to you.
Thank you, Oliver, and thank you to your shirt.
Yes,
and thank you, Claire. Thank you, Claire. And thank you to all our listeners.
Yeah, there's 4 of us.
Including Nino.
Nino, yes. He was very, very pleasant about this.
Very gracious.
Very gracious is the word.
Very gracious, that's the word.
Yeah, but that's right. So goodbye from Maureen, Claire, me and my shirt until the next time. Bye-bye.